Hi, my name is Alice. I'm a full-time astrologer. I'm based in New York City, and I've been doing astrology for about 5 to 6 years now, and I'm also the British Vogue astrologer. So I do weekly horoscopes for them. I just wrote a book. I do a podcast, courses, a lot of different stuff. Understand your dating patterns and looking at your birth chart specifically through the lens of relationships. So understanding like what the moon, Venus, Mars signs are. If you have extreme difficulty with dating, like why is that so hard for you? And how can you recognize certain patterns you keep repeating? The chart is very complex. There's houses, there's planets, there's signs, there's aspects, and it's combining all of that to understand like why you're so multifaceted or why one Sagittarius is completely different from another Sagittarius.
Yes. But isn't it crazy that this is all predetermined, which means that in our life, do we have free will?
So I was looking at that July chart for you because your birthday's coming up, and it was very much focused on like groups and community, and like that's where all your emotions were tied, like building an audience.
Which is crazy because I haven't announced this yet. Nobody knows this, but something I'm working on in the background is to really... Hey everyone, and welcome back to Millennial Mind. I have one really quick favor to ask from all of you. If you haven't already, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, if you could press the follow and subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me. Thank you so much for supporting me on this journey here. Let's get into it because I cannot wait for you to see my new studio and my incredible guest today. Alice.
Hi.
Welcome to Millennial Mind.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited for this podcast, and we've literally just spent the last hour of you telling me everything about my future.
I know. I
and
feel
I'm
like
scared.
I know your life.
Yeah,
now.
I'm genuinely scared because if you've watched my podcast before, whenever I bring anyone on around astrology, I am clueless and I don't really understand it. And I am a bit skeptical, if I'm honest. But however, you've just told me so many things about what I'm planning to do that I haven't told anyone else.
Yeah.
Very strange. But anyway, for people who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Alice. I'm a full-time astrologer. I'm based in New York City, and I've been doing astrology for about 5 to 6 years now, and I'm also the British Vogue astrologer. So I do weekly horoscopes for them.
Oh my God.
I just wrote a book. I do a podcast, courses, a lot of different stuff.
Your book is so beautiful and so
thank
aesthetic.
you.
And I have just so many questions around some of the stuff I read. But I'm keen to understand, how did you get into astrology?
So I started my career in fashion. I was a fashion assistant at US Vogue. I thought that was like my dream job, like to be a fashion editor, to be like Anna Wintour. Like that's what I wanted. And then I got there and it just like didn't have a lot of meaning to me. Like it wasn't resonating anymore. And in the winter of 2018, so January 2018, I just started like getting really interested in astrology. It kind of got triggered by this guy I liked not answering me. And I started like obsessively reading my weekly horoscope. Like, is he going to text me back? And then from there, I pulled up my birth chart and I was like, oh, there's way more to this than horoscopes and wondering if someone's compatible with me. I have this whole chart that explains like my personality and why I am the way I am. And from there, I was like, everyone needs to know this. So I became kind of like the office astrologer, like doing readings for everyone, just like practicing in all of my free time, like doing charts at home. And that's kind of when I would say like 6 months to 10 months after that, after initially finding it, I decided to turn that into like a business. And
what is astrology?
What is astrology?
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay, yeah, let's back it up a little. So to go back to like the term of your birth chart, that's like what you're looking at when you're getting a reading or trying to understand yourself through astrology. And that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment you took your first breath. So where were the planets positioned in the sky? And that basically tells you important things about yourself, like what's your unique family background? What are you interested in career-wise? What are your gifts? What are your challenges? So that was really helpful. Like what resonated the most with me when I started teaching myself how to read my own birth chart was like why I acted so crazy with dating and like why I was so obsessive over people. So
how interesting.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is from the moment I was born, because the planets were in a certain way,
yes,
that can tell me what my gift is.
Exactly. Yeah.
How?
It's based on, so I'm sure some listeners have heard of like their sun, moon, and rising.
Right. But let's just basically say what that is. What is the sun, moon, and rising?
So the sun is like your sign. That's like when someone asks you what your sign is, they're referring to your sun. And that's like what month or like season you're born in. The rising and the moon is really when you need like the exact birth time and the birth year and the birthplace, because those change so quickly. So the rising sign is the sign that was on the eastern horizon that was rising when you took your first breath of life. And that really describes like how you present yourself to the world, like kind of the lens through which you approach the rest of your life. So like Leo rising would approach, I don't know, all facets of life in a very creative, self-expressive way, where Capricorn rising is like the end goal is always to achieve something or work hard, or be like respected in their field. So it's basically how other people see you too.
But can't we adapt ourselves to what we put as the star signs? I think what I'm trying to say is the difficulty I have sometimes with star signs and some parts of this is that it labels you.
Yeah.
So when people say to me, what star sign are you? Thank God I'm a Cancer, because if I ever said Gemini or Scorpio, people are like, oh my God, you're a Gemini. Or, you know, someone said today, I'm a Scorpio, but I'm a good kind, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like Cancer, you know, Cancer is quite a nice star sign. So thank God I was born in July. But, you know, what worries me around certain star signs is we attach ourselves to them. So, you know, I'm a Pisces and therefore I am, is it short? Are Pisces short people? I don't know.
Pisces is
not in height, by the way. I mean, like blunt.
Yeah, I would say Pisces is like very intuitive. Like can pick up on how other people are feeling. Very drawn to spiritual type stuff, but can be very emotional and sensitive.
But that's me, and I'm a Cancer.
Cancer is also another water sign. It has similar traits, but it takes on maybe more nurturing qualities, like wanting to take care of people, or like that home and family being very important.
Yeah, which is true. Yeah. I'm laughing because yesterday I was in the water and I said to my boyfriend, I'm meant to be a water baby, but I hate the water. And he just burst out laughing and he was like, what on earth is a water baby?
That's so funny.
And I was like, because, you know, Cancer's a water sign. And he was like, I don't understand. But anyway, my point is sometimes with the horoscopes, people can attach themselves to a particular label and also blame their actions on their star sign. You know, oh, I'm two-faced because I'm a Gemini, or, you know, I change my mood all the time because I'm a Gemini, or whatever it is. I don't know.
I don't
condone, right?
Yeah, I don't condone any of that. And that's why you have like your whole birth chart, like the sun sign, which is what people refer to when they're saying star sign. That's only one sliver of your entire chart. Like the chart is very complex. There's houses, there's planets, there's signs, there's aspects, and it's combining all of that to understand like why you're so multifaceted, or why one Sagittarius is completely different from another Sagittarius.
Yes.
So that's why the labeling stuff can be problematic. It's just people not knowing the depth of astrology, maybe.
Okay, yeah, you're right, because there's people that are born on the same day that I think you're wildly different.
Exactly.
There's no way we're the same star sign.
Yeah, unless they're born at the exact same minute, hour, city, like you're going to have a different chart.
So what about the person who was born in the exact same minute and the hour in the same hospital and same city?
So this is a question I get asked a lot with like twins.
Yeah.
Because they're born so close together and they do have the same chart. That's just like kind of when it goes to like your souls are different. So like it doesn't mean like the chart is prescriptive of your personality. It's more like you still have similar life experiences, but they play out in different ways.
Got it.
Yeah.
So how can astrology impact your relationships?
So I initially, like based on my book, I'm really looking at relationships through like better understanding yourself. I feel like with astrology, a lot of people get caught up in like, am I compatible with this person? Yes. Does this sign work with me? When really it's like your chart tells you like what you need out of a partnership, what dating patterns you might want to be aware of moving forward. So I like using it that way to be like, what do I need to heal within myself, or how can I approach dating differently moving forward?
But isn't it crazy that this is all predetermined, which means that in our life, do we have free will?
This is a question I go back and forth on a lot. I do, yeah, like you have free will, but it is interesting to think like, is everything fated? With astrology though, like the transits, like where the planets currently are in the sky and how that's affecting your life and your current circumstances, I do feel like it like presents you with a certain energy at any given time, and it's kind of up to you to decide like how's that going to go, and that's like where the free will comes in.
One of the interesting things that you told me before this is when you've predicted people's charts before, because you actually do prediction, don't you?
Yeah, that's like what I
in a minute.
Yeah.
But when you've done that before, you can't really say, oh, you're going to get a divorce or you're going to break up. But you can see that there's a challenge.
Exactly, yeah. You can see, like, when is a great period to date, when when might there be a more meaningful relationship established, but I can't see specifics of like, this is definitely engagement, this is definitely a divorce or a breakup. It's more like, how are you feeling about your relationship in that moment? And astrology is just simply reflecting that. So yeah, I can see challenging periods, I can see positive periods, but I don't know the like exact outcome of how that's going to go.
There must be an art of understanding this and reading this, right?
Yeah,
Because obviously, if I'm nervous or in an anxious state of my life and I'm looking at horoscopes and I'm looking at all of these different things, I have to be able to interpret it in a way that's going to impact me positively rather than negatively. And I think that's what people do, exactly what you said in terms of compatibility. You'll take your reading to someone and say, are me and my partner compatible? That person will say no, and you'll think, oh God, I can't be with them for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit around the benefits of using it and how people at home who are watching and listening to this can use it.
So specifically looking at compatibility, it's really not that black and white. Like I would never tell someone like, yes, you're compatible. No, you're not. It really just shows like where are the strengths and weaknesses in the relationship. Like, do they have a good time together? Do they like to travel? Are there communication issues or trust issues? It more shows that type of vibe. Like where can you improve upon, or where do things flow naturally in the relationship? It's not like this is not compatible with this.
I see. And then in terms of your personal one, so in terms of your book and the authenticity part of it, how does astrology help with really understanding who you are? Because I guess the paradox is authenticity is understanding who you are. What you're saying is astrology is saying that you are who you are regardless of what you make of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's fate.
Like I feel like astrology already reflects like what you're already feeling about yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like forcing you to be something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like with relationships, like if you're wanting to understand like how do I act in relationships, I would say like look to your moon sign, look to your Venus, your Mars, what signs are they in your house, or what signs are they in your chart, what houses are they in, how are they interacting with other planets, what sign is ruling the 7th house, the 5th house. It gets very complicated beyond just what sign am I.
Okay, so look, Alice, you don't really know me.
Yeah.
We've met today first time. Have you done any research on me?
No.
Have you seen my Instagram?
I've seen your Instagram, yes.
Okay, so why don't we look at last year?
Okay.
And you can tell me. You've just seen my Instagram, okay?
I didn't do any deep dive.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's look at last year and you can tell me some things.
I mean, so really 2022 was big on like establishing yourself in your career, but maybe also feeling like stress and pressure to do something different. I do see like around your birthday last year getting maybe more attention for work, which
when I went viral.
Yeah, exactly. You validated that for me.
Yeah,
but
I told you.
It did look like a big like year of putting yourself out there and getting public attention for what you're doing.
Yeah, that really was.
Yeah.
And anything else?
I would say there's been like changes with work going on, and you told me like you quit your job to do this full time, but also like mental health, physical health has been a big theme. You're kind of coming out of that. I would say maybe still lingering a bit this year and early next, but ultimately it is going more towards changes with like community, changes with friends, really coming into like your own creative voice and like how can you align yourself with the most meaningful people.
The health part is so accurate because last year, because I was so stressed and because I was running around, I just lost loads of weight. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't looking after myself. And this year I'm really focusing on food and looking after myself and going to the gym regularly and really pushing myself to focus on those things. But the thing that, but off camera, what you said to me, and this is 100% truth. I said to Alice, because I didn't want to say on the podcast, can you tell me what my future's going to be? It's very daunting and overwhelming. It's also very personal.
Yeah.
And Alice said, well, actually, you can tell everyone what you said about me this year, what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, so I saw like a huge theme for you coming up on your birthday. So kind of like in astrology, your birthday is like your new year. You tend to get like a reset and there's new themes that come up in the 12-month period from your birthday to your birthday. So I was looking at that July chart for you because your birthday is coming up. And it was very much focused on like groups and community. And like that's where all your emotions were tied, like building an audience.
Which is crazy because I haven't announced this yet. Nobody knows this, but something I'm working on in the background is to really build my own community up more.
Yeah.
And so that's what I found so crazy was I haven't told anyone. No one.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I haven't announced it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit crazy that you picked that up. And I think that's quite amazing. But what worries me is, you know, if I was to do an in-depth reading with you and you said to me, okay, Shivani, you're not going to be with your partner now.
I would never be able to see that.
You wouldn't be able to see it.
I can't see if you're deciding to break up. I can see.
No, I'm not deciding about that.
No, I know you aren't. But I'm saying, like, potentially, if you came to me with that question, I would say, like, okay, I see you're going through relationship stress in your chart. This is when it might end. Or this is when you may notice improvements to that. So that's up to you.
Either or.
Yeah. So like that's up to you. It's like an improvement could be breaking up and feeling free of a restricting relationship that hasn't been serving you. Or it could be like you and your partner finally work through your issues.
But let's say you saw something in there around, you know, a dip in my career. Or let's say I was going to have a baby, which I absolutely don't want right now. Let's say there was something like that. What can I do to change that? Or can I change it? Because certain things are fate. I actually do think, weirdly, I've always thought I'm going to be okay. And I've never been the brightest kid in school. I've never been the most intelligent person in my class. I've never had the most high-paying job. But for some reason, I've always, from a young age, always thought I'm going to be so fine.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I've always had that comfort within myself.
I've seen, like, if that's in your chart, I've seen where Jupiter is. Jupiter's, like, the optimistic planet.
Oh, God. Okay, tell me.
I think you have, like, your sun is loosely square Jupiter. So that brings in that, like, hope and faith and optimism.
What about, am I going to be okay?
Yeah,
I've been telling myself this for my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, like I was telling you, like, there's always years that might be more frustrating. And you're like, is this going to last forever? And that's why astrology is so useful. It's like, no, it's not going to last forever. It's like literally just this few month period or maybe this couple year period. And then things are going to be great further down the road.
I love that.
So that's like why I find it the most comforting.
I think the thing is, when you're kind of doing your own business or you're starting something new, you're going against the grain, the difficult part is going through those periods where it's really slow and it's really stagnant. And I've spoken openly about this, going through a period last year of ridiculous growth and so many new and exciting things, and quitting my job and doing this full time and, you know, starting the podcast and getting recognition for it all happened very, very quickly. Yeah. And so many things kept happening. And this year has felt that nothing is happening, even though certain things are. And, you know, obviously when you're looking at someone's life from the outside, you see the 3-4 things that are happening in their year and you think, wow, that's amazing. When you're living with it daily, you're looking at every single day. Yeah. And so every single day when something great isn't happening, you're thinking nothing is happening. Yeah. But I think the reason why so many people quit is because they don't keep holding on to the fact that something is going to happen one day and it's going to change everything. And Atomic Habits was a great book in that sense of, you know, always focusing on the 1%, and you never know when those changes will compound and build up and change. I need to read forever.
That book. That's been on my list forever.
It is amazing. Okay. It's literally around, you think you're doing the same thing every single day, but you never know that that same thing you're doing one day is going to transform into something else. Yeah. So you've told me a year. I don't want to say which year. Things might change. Big for me, growth. And I have to be patient. But now that you've told me that, I feel a bit more comforted because it is difficult. It is really, really, really difficult. But at the end of the day, let's say my dream is one day, I don't know, to have my own show. I could be saying for the next 5 years, okay, I'm doing the podcast every single day and I'm not getting anywhere. But I don't know how that 300th episode of my podcast is going to be groundbreaking for a producer to notice and give me my show. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And also, like, I can see those huge career breakthrough years for you when that might happen. But it's like, what is happening in the lead up to that to get you there?
Exactly.
So that's like, sometimes when I'm telling what might happen to in the future for someone, they're like, oh, that doesn't make sense right now. And I'm like, of course it doesn't, because it's like far out. Like, you still have to do the steps to get there. You never know what could come through when those planets align in your chart at that date.
Hey everyone, I really quickly want to tell you about this product that has been really helping me recently with 30 grams of protein, completely plant-based, and helps me to get all of my nutrients, and that is Form's Performance Protein. Form's Premium Protein provides me with so much sustained energy to help me get through my jam-packed days, and as someone who loves nourishing my body, I know that I can rely on Form to give me high-quality, trusted ingredients because I know that it's all natural with no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or sugars. There are so many flavors to choose from. As you can see, I have the tiramisu and the vanilla here, and they all come in compostable pouches. Now, I find it really hard to choose my favorite flavor, but at the moment, chocolate hazelnut is my go-to because you all know that I have a sweet tooth, and that is what I love about this product because it tastes phenomenal. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I work out a lot and I can rely on Form's protein and recovery products to make sure that my muscles grow and so I can bounce back and feel ready for the next challenge. Now, Form are very kindly sponsoring this video and they've given me a code to allow you to try their products and get 10% off. So all you need to do is use the code AMM10 to get 10% off your next order, and then make sure you tag me in your products and tell me what your favorite flavor is. I'm so excited for you all to try this protein. It really tastes phenomenal and it's super easy, super convenient, great for the environment and great for your body. Now let's get back to the podcast. Has there ever been a time where you felt you can't say something about someone? Like it's a bit scary?
I mean, I do see like difficult years from now and then, but like I was telling you, astrology is already reflecting like what you already feel intuitively. So most people coming to me for a reading, like their life is not perfect and smooth sailing at the moment, or else why would they be seeking answers like that? So a lot of times I do get that, and it's just helpful to know like, okay, 2024 might be better. Like this month is like when you'll have more work opportunities, if that's what they're wanting to know.
Yeah.
So it's never like a completely negative reading. I would never phrase stuff like that.
What are the misconceptions around astrology?
What we were talking about earlier, just like that you have your sun sign and it's just a weekly horoscope and it's these prescriptive personality traits, and definitely the compatibility thing, like people getting caught up in like that sign doesn't work for me, the relationship's doomed. I would say those are the two main ones. Like astrology isn't real because my horoscope doesn't make sense.
I was just going to say, there's so many people that call it a bunch of, woo-woo. Sometimes, when you say, oh, the moon's really affected me today, so I can't come into work. This is a Gen Z problem that people are saying.
Yeah,
right? Gen Z
Mercury's retrograde.
Yeah, literally Mercury retrograde. And my boyfriend always says to me all the time, he's like, the moon, I don't know what's going on with the moon, but I'm really upset today.
Oh.
He's sarcastically saying that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I often have to, be like, I don't know, maybe the moon's affecting me. But, tell me, how does the moon affect us?
Yeah, so the moon is very important to watch because it changes signs every 2.5 days. And every month you get a new moon and a full moon. So it's actually very interesting to track that because you'll see like at the time of the new moon. So the new moon is like when you're wanting to set goals, set intentions. Like what do you want to focus on for the next 4 weeks?
Got it.
Which is how long the lunar cycle is. And then things continue to build from the new moon phase to the full moon phase. So like in that 2-week time frame of new moon to full moon, you're noticing new opportunities, new relationships form, new habits established. And then the full moon is like the most heightened activity time of the month where like things are really getting going, you're coming full circle, you're making important realizations. And then coming off of the full moon to the next new moon is like a quieter phase of the month where you're kind of wrapping things up, taking time to rest, not a great time to launch.
And why is this real? What I mean, there's going to be people watching this and thinking, okay, you're talking about the moon and setting intentions. My crystal lady said to me, Shivani, it's a strawberry moon, so make sure you take your crystals off and charge them.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that will think I'm mad if I said it's a strawberry moon, so I have to take my crystals off and charge them.
I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, astrologers do not know how it's real, myself included. I just know it works. Yeah.
And how do you know it works?
Because I've seen this stuff play out in my own life. I've made so many predictions for myself and for other people, and it happens exactly.
Like what?
Like I predicted myself getting into my relationship. I've predicted definitive career changes for people, and it always happens at around the time frame I give.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between predictions and manifesting?
I would say you can manifest and like keep a goal you want to happen in mind, but when the astrology lines up, that's more likely when it's going to happen.
A lot of the time when you're speaking, you're talking around really knowing yourself and intuition and kind of that inner voice. How much of that plays a part with astrology?
I would say a lot. Like, I would say especially like in the timing of things, it's really like astrology's already reflecting what you're already feeling about yourself. Does that make sense?
No, not really.
Okay. So like where the planets currently are in your chart, it's not like they're causing things to happen for you or like there's going to be a big shock, a big surprise. It's already like that feeling is building within you. And if you're listening to your intuition and your gut instincts about something, that's going to be reflected in the astrology. Like the astrology is simply validating what you already feel.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That the planets know you who you are.
Yeah. It's very interesting how it's like it correlates with events happening in your life.
Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
How is
I used
God
to not
related
before.
to astrology?
I would say astrology is more about like it's not necessarily like a god, but just like something bigger than myself is in control.
Power.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing Kagi, and she was telling me around the Saturn returns. And I remember I looked it up after, and I was going through a Saturn return.
Yeah.
Sometimes, can it feel that you're expressing your emotions because you're confused about them? Because everyone's confused in life, let's just say, by the way. I think everyone at every point in their life is confused. Well, maybe it's just me.
No, yeah, I agree.
And you're trying to find some kind of reason and logic to what you're going through. And often there are these things online that align with you, like a Saturn return. But loads of people just say it's just a very normal thing. Of course, let me start off by saying, what is a Saturn return?
Okay, so a Saturn return. So when you're born, Saturn's at a specific place in your birth chart. So like you're born in 93. I'm born in 1993. We have Saturn in Aquarius. So Saturn takes 29 years to return to the same sign it was in when you were born. So that's why everyone who was born in 1991 to 1993 has been going through their Saturn return the last couple years. We're finally out of that. But it's like when Saturn returns to that spot it was in your birth chart, it brings up those like Saturnian themes in your life of I need to maybe like get real about this part of my life and really figure out like what has long-term potential, what's really serving me. So sometimes like if you've been in a career that just like is not the right fit, the Saturn return will come along and it's like I need to really figure out what I'm passionate about, what's my niche. Or like with relationships, it's kind of like stepping it up, being more mature, really figuring out like who and what you want to commit to.
So you're almost like reborn again, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Essentially.
And it's like why you have that like tough personal growth transitional period that goes on. I mean, it starts as early as like 27 and it starts to fade out around age 30. Usually the Saturn return is like peak at age 29.
But a lot of people who are going into their 30s, or a lot of people who are in their late 20s, are going through this kind of phase of not knowing who they are. I mean, loads of people have a midlife crisis as well. There's
astrology for the midlife crisis too.
What is that?
It's a Saturn opposition in the early to mid 40s, and then Uranus opposition too.
And what does
that mean? At the same time, that's really like that one asks you: have you been living true to yourself? How might you want to break out of like a mold you've been living in, and like really embrace how you're unique, like embracing your own individuality.
I've heard a lot of people use astrology in terms of explaining their actions.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of hiding behind some of them. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't like agree with that. Like kind of going back to what we were saying, like, oh, I acted this way because I'm a Gemini.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should be using that as an excuse. But like I said, like all signs have their like negative qualities or their more positive, like productive qualities. It's just kind of like, how are you going to develop and evolve and like maybe use the more constructive qualities of that sign
and use them, I guess, intentionally. So you know, if people wanted to read your book or wanted to get a takeaway out from it, what would you say to them?
So my book like really helps you understand your approach to relationships and like understand your dating patterns and looking at your birth chart specifically through the lens of relationships. So understanding like what the moon, Venus, Mars signs are. I also have a whole section on like if you have extreme difficulty with dating, like why is that so hard for you and how can you recognize certain patterns you keep repeating. And then also I go into compatibility and how it's way more than just sun sign and like the whole art of chart comparison to someone else. And then, of course, timing. Like, when might you meet someone? When might you go through relationship stress?
Wow.
And understanding those periods are just temporary. And when might they come along for you?
You mentioned patience is really, really important.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that so many people struggle with, and I touched upon that before in terms of a career journey, I think is really difficult to be patient in. But there are a lot of people out there that I know are really struggling to find a partner, and they can be really impatient in that. So what would you say to someone at the moment who's really desperately trying to find someone? They don't understand what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's trust your timing, like the title of my book. It's so cliche, but I do feel like everyone has specific years where relationships are a bigger focus, sometimes in a more positive way, sometimes in a more challenging way. But sometimes like that's just not the focus of your life for that year. So it's not worth comparing yourself to maybe your friends who are getting married or who met their husband at college. Like everyone's on their own unique timeline. And that's really what astrology is able to show.
Is what your specific one is.
Yeah.
And why it's so vastly different.
Yeah.
And why, I guess, are people so vastly different in terms of destiny and fate and what people deserve and what they want? Because what we're saying here sometimes is that it's all around fate. And therefore it's not really about hard work and what you're deserving of. It's who you are.
Yeah. I mean, that's weird. I feel like that's the nature versus nurture, isn't a little bit?
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, that's like when it's like free will. Like what choices do you want to make? Like there's some people that are presented with more difficult circumstances in life. Like, how are you going to cope with that?
After speaking with you before this podcast, there were a couple of things that you mentioned to me that really, really resonated with me. And I'm a bit scared at how you know them.
Yeah.
I am quite surprised. And I'm going to go away after this and definitely go into my birth chart and start becoming obsessive. I think next year you might see me, looking around all of this stuff.
This is a spiritual year for you, getting more into that.
Really?
Yeah, so pay attention.
Oh my God.
Until May of 2024. It's going to be a focus for you.
Yeah, I know. You also said it's going to be a period of slow growth.
Yeah. That too.
Not what I wanted to hear. But now that I know that, I will be more patient. Yeah. But you told me a really crazy success story of yours because, like I said, I'm quite skeptical around certain things. And especially when people can predict things, I often feel, well, how would you know? So can you share that story with me?
Yeah, so I had a client of mine. I love this story so much. I tell it all the time. So I had a client of mine come to me during deep COVID lockdowns, March or April of 2020. She had just gotten dumped and was living in her parents' home. And she had just also moved apartments in New York, was like super happy there, but currently staying with her parents during COVID. She comes to me close to her birthday. She's like, I'm a mess. Like, I just got dumped. I don't know what's happening in my life. So I looked at her chart. I was like, I see you moving this year, and I also see another relationship. And she's like, how is that possible? Like, I just got broken up with 3 weeks ago, and I love my apartment I just moved into. Well, a month later, she ends up meeting her now husband, and their relationship developed very quickly. They moved from New York to California a couple months after they met. So the moving and the relationship stuff came true. Amazing. And I was invited to the wedding.
How nice.
Yeah.
That is so lovely. And I think, I think that a lot of the time, especially with the work that we do, it's really easy to get bogged down by negativity, by comparison, trying to fit in with someone else's path. A lot of us are doing that now on social media. I think like everyone is really inauthentic. Yeah. Sometimes. And
there's so much comparison.
So much. And it can be difficult. Yeah. But I remember reading this the other day and, what is meant for you is meant for you. Yeah. And no one can take that away from you. Yeah. So if you're jealous of someone, be jealous of them. But it's never going to take away from their success.
Yeah, it's not.
And if you're horrible to someone, no matter what you do, it's never going to take it away from them. What's in their destiny is in their destiny. And someone once told me that as well, is whatever you're meant to be, you will be. Yeah. It might take you a different way to get there. It might take you longer to get there. It might take you shorter to do that. You might get there quicker. Yeah. But whatever's in your destiny and whatever's written for you will happen. And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, with astrology, on the day that you were born, at the time you were born, a higher power out there kind of has a path for you.
Yeah, it's like in these years, this is likely to happen, and it's kind of wild. It's like you were always meant to have a year kind of play out that way.
How amazing.
Yeah, it's very comforting. It's like helpful. I'm someone who's very controlling and anxious, and it's helpful to just be like, I release control. Like, this is going to happen eventually.
And how do we find out more around this stuff? Personal question.
Yeah. So I go into like timing stuff in my book, like I said. Also like on my Instagram, Stalk Alice. And I do readings for people too.
Amazing. Yeah. I can't wait to have my full reading done.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you for having me.
You're only here for a few days. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I love this insightful convo.
Thank you. Thanks so much.